have all of my areas masked so that they aren't going to get interfered with while I do my water background. So my water background is our last thing that we're going to do. There are two techniques that are happening here. I have worked up my base color, and I don't want it to be like a super, super bright blue like I've done on previous ones. And you can, if you want to, you can do it a nice like phthalo blue or Windsor blue, or you could do an ultramarine blue, and they turn out nice and bright. And you can even do a blend of the two of them, which is what I've usually done in the past, and it turns out this nice bright color. But I kind of want to see if I can tone it back just a little bit, and so I used some of my Payne's gray in there, and just the leftover green that was like in my base from doing the seaweed. So it's going to look a little bit more natural and organic for aquarium water, I guess you would call it. You can do this two different ways. You can add your wet onto there and then drop different colors of paint into it. So that's a wet on wet. Or you can start dry and start dripping different colors onto there or painting them onto there and let them blend on their own. I like to start with just a base layer on there. And so that's our first thing that we're gonna do is wet into wet. The second thing that we're gonna do is we're going to use salt. And before I start painting, I'm gonna show you this whole thing. I have just regular like salt, and then I have more coarse granular salt that I can put on there. You can do either one. Literally anything that is categorized as salt will do this process. And what it does is it gives you these little like blooms of color, or the salt sucks the water in and it moves the water through there, and then you're left with like the absence of the color, and you have like the little blooms in there. It gives it a nice watery technique. So I'm gonna do those two techniques, wet into wet and also salt blooms, which means I have to work fast. I have to get all these things, these areas wet, and I don't wanna go over top of my boundaries so that I go into and past my masking fluid, because then I'm gonna have like a stripey thing happening to my fish that's already stripey over here. So I'm gonna do my wet and wet, and I'm just gonna play around with a couple different colors. This is the part where you guys can talk if you want to now. Cool deal. I mean, I'm on board. I would laugh ferociously.
My students have discovered rapidly that I have a very healthy, like, poop and fart humor, and they think it's really funny.
I think it's really funny. If I can't make myself be a grown-up enough to ignore fart humor, how am I gonna expect teenagers not to enjoy a good fart joke? As long as we're not mocking the people who do the farting, because, you know, we can't always help it. I am not a Canva whiz.
I found this one with it is pretty easy to switch it and fuss with it and see if I like it better that way. I don't know. Which actual there? Yeah, I think the horizontal is vertical. Maybe select the background maybe. I definitely don't support. I mean, it seems like there's gotta be a logical way to do it. Logically, there seems like there has to be a way to do it.
I knew what you meant.
The only thing I fear is you're gonna flip it, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna have to change all these.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it's just a template. I can always delete it and redo it. I deleted one thing off it and changed the background. So there's not a lot that I can do.
That's pretty fast. I'm gonna put it all together. It's got some size. But
I'm gonna say things really quickly.
oh my goodness.
So I have done my wash in the background and I've added in my salt. You can see over here it's starting to do its thing, making it look kind of all watery in the background. Over here it's still very wet, so I need to let it do its thing and let it think. So this is the last painting step that I have. After I'm done, just like when I did the resist earlier around my fish and on here, I'm just gonna go back through after I have let this dry for about a day, and then I'm gonna go back and rub off the extra masking fluid, and then I'll be good to go.